Please join me in welcome FICO's CEO, Will Lansing, our Chief Marketing Officer, Nikhil Behl, and Mike Gualtieri from Forrester Research.
Had to have high hopes for a living, shooting for the stars, but I couldn't make a killing. Didn't have a time, but I always had a vision, always had high.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to FICO World. For those of you who've been here before, welcome back. For those of you who are new, this is your first time. Let it be the first of many more to come. Super excited to have you here. On behalf of the FICO family, I just want to tell you, we really appreciate you spending the time with us this week. We know your time is immensely valuable. We know there are many things that you could be doing today and this week, and we really appreciate that you're spending that time with us. Let's dive straight in. In March of 2020, 30 months ago, I woke up one morning and we were 100% remote at FICO. It was unbelievable. I was greatly concerned. How are we going to run this business? How are we going to maintain those special personal connections that make FICO special and that make us one of your trusted advisors? And in really short order, it dawned on me that I shouldn't actually be that worried. Because way before March 2020, Will, our CEO, had already launched a digital transformation process at FICO. We were well down the path of Zoom videos and remote-oriented workforce, and we didn't skip a beat. In fact, we got busier than we had ever been. We were right back at work, we were right back helping you, and we went from a world where digital was a choice or an option to a digital-first world. So with that in mind, Will, you had us going to cloud way before we were it was, the word du jour. You had us down the path in digital transformation before everybody else. Where does this foresight come from?
I don't think it's genius. I think it's just following the business. We're really a virtual business. We have a talent-first kind of an approach, and so we have great people all over the world. So we were scattered. We were virtual before the pandemic, and we thought that Zoom would be a good thing for communication. We were trying to, because we're virtual, we're trying to foster better communication tools and reduce travel, frankly, which is kind of a tremendous productivity sink. And so we wound up putting in Zoom earlier, and that positioned us very nicely for the pandemic. I'd say a couple things came out of it. One thing is, we knew we were going to get good communication within the company. What I wasn't so sure about was how the communication would be with our customers. And that's just turned out to be a fantastic thing. I think we've had much more frequent meetings, shorter, more effective, better communication. So that part's worked out really well. And then I think also culturally, we put a lot of pressure on turn your camera on. And so, we all do it in different ways, but what we found is with a cultural imperative to turn your camera on, the Zoom calls got shorter, more productive, less multitasking, and basically a good thing. So, we're pretty happy with the way it's all gone.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate that. Mike, tell me a little bit about, how has everybody else responded to this? Everybody else was in the same boat. What happened? How do they respond?
Yeah, so the enterprises that I talk to and take inquiries from on digital decisioning and AI platforms, what I saw, not at first, but after a few months into it, was an acceleration of digital decisioning, an acceleration of AI. In fact, we had data that showed this actually for several years. We had been doing surveys of companies over 5,000, it's like thousands of companies. And the AI adoption had been going up a couple points in the low 40s, but we had this huge jump in 2020 by about 11 points, right into the 60% of companies doing this. And we believe that by 2025, we'll have nearly 100% of companies will be doing some form of digital decisioning, some form of AI. But it may only be a few use cases. And when we even tried to count the number of use cases, there were thousands. So I think the mindset shift is that, well, yes, we're on a digital transformation journey, but we have to accelerate that journey, and we need to focus on the technologies that will lead to the highest value business outcomes, the decisions.
Fantastic. Certainly most everybody woke up and had to figure it out, right? So I'm not surprised you saw those kind of jumps as well. Will, we speak to a lot of customers. We've talked to a lot of customers that have started their own digital transformation journeys. In your conversations with them, what are you hearing? What are some of those things that lead to a successful journey? What are some of the pitfalls that they need to be careful of?
Well, you hear about, you got to be practical about the whole thing. And you hear about things like getting all the data in one place. And of course, we don't really mean in one place. We mean access to the data. But the practical side of it is trying to figure out what data you really need. And I think it's important to start with the data that has the most value and then work your way incrementally from there. So a level of practicality, I think, is pretty important. Another one is figuring out what has to be in real time and what doesn't, because real time is obviously very important, but trying to do it for everything is cost prohibitive, and so being smart and practical about that matters. It's walk before you run. So take the steps. Start with decisioning, move on to the data ingestion and access to third-party data, then on to analytics and adding in things like that. And I just think there's a step to it that makes it work. And it's all about practicality. Although there are some people who go big bang and it can work, taking it step by step is probably the best practice.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate that. I know everybody here is challenged with it as much as we and others are, and so that's good advice to be pragmatic and sort of practical in how you get started. Mike, you made a really bold statement that when I read, I had a big smile on my face and I nodded, because it's something Will talks a lot about as well, and it's really, in many ways, the unofficial mission for FICO. You said, enterprises rise and fall by the efficacy of all the decisions that they make. That's pretty incredible. Tell us more about that.
Well, I think it's I'm not sure I would characterize it as incredible, but if it is incredible, it's because decisions include a lot of things that people don't think of as decisions. This crowd is very familiar with decisions and the importance of decisions. It's the entire business. It's critically important. But when you expand that to other industries, there's a decision, and it doesn't seem like a decision, but is this machine going to break down and shut down an entire line? Is this going to shut down a supply line? So there are decisions throughout the business. And when you see digital transformation occurring, those decisions must become digital decisions, and there must be a platform to manage those decisions. And so that's one of the things I cover. And then one other point on that is that if this is true, you have to make the best possible decisions. And there isn't one particular technology that applies to everything. There's a set of decision intelligence technologies. So as you know, I cover AI platforms, and almost the sole focus is on machine learning models, which is a very important decision intelligence technology. But what about optimization? What about human decision? What about good old math? What about other advanced analytics form? So to make the best possible decisions and therefore have the best possible outcomes, you have to use multiple decision intelligence technologies, and that's what digital decisioning platforms bring together, the ability to use all of those technologies.
Interesting.
Well, you've answered the question I was about to ask you, which was really how do you tell us more about the digital decisioning platform and how that works?
And the difference between an AI platform and a digital decisioning platform. We hear a lot about the two terms, and clearly, in your mind at least, there's a difference there.
Yeah, and I cover both of those technologies at Forrester because, in a way, they're one and the same. So the way I think of AI platforms is they do have a focus right now on machine learning, solely machine learning. And I think that's really a subset of digital decisioning platforms. And that's why we call them digital decisioning platforms, because they support these multiple technologies inside the platform, machine learning, human decision logic, which is sorely needed with machine learning models. So we define those platform capabilities as providing, first and foremost, collaboration between business experts who understand the decision logic, and then other decision intelligence technologies professionals, data scientists, for example, who can together build those decisions. And the other key characteristic of a decisioning platform is the fast change, the ability to change those decisions and monitor the real-world business outcomes to facilitate that change.
Fantastic. I mean, it really does sound like FICO platform all in one. And I know we'll talk a lot more about that later today, as well as through the course of this week. Will, building on what Mike just said, you have actually said this, and I know Mike, for example, the first time he heard you say this, he called me and he said, "That's a change for FICO. That is a step further than anybody else in the industry is really talking about." And Will, what you had said was that every decision matters. And in today's world, we can actually get to a point where every decision matters. Every decision deepens their customer relationships, it reshapes experiences, and it creates a lot more value. I've heard you talk about decision technology as the next generation of enterprise software. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that we started in a world where you would invest a lot of energy in precision decisioning around high-stakes decisions, lending money. We want to get paid back. But other kinds of decisions, marketing decisions, should this person get a diaper offer, a detergent offer, not so much. Not the stakes weren't as high, and the investment wasn't made in making those kinds of decisions. I think we live in a world where Amazon has changed consumer expectations, where every consumer expects that every touch point, every interaction will be relevant, that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. Whatever channel you come in through, there's awareness of what happened in the other channel. And so I think it's on us as B2C enterprises, it's on us to make sure that every touch point really matters. And the right way to do it is not with crude rules, but with data-driven decisions and making those decisions really count.
Well, you saw on the video that we showed earlier, as well as on a lot of the screens here, applied intelligence. And really, where that comes from is something you've talked a lot about, which is the 2.0 of different industries, getting to the next generation. And that really is the application of intelligence into those industries. And we talk a lot about that at FICO. There's a new term for many people. They don't always understand what that means. You see, applied intelligence, it also stands for AI. People get confused sometimes. Can you break it down and explain what is applied intelligence? What is this application of intelligence?
I think of artificial intelligence as a subset of applied intelligence. Applied intelligence, in my mind, is a very broad view of bringing data and analytics together to solve problems, to make decisions. And it's not just the data and the analytics, it's the human judgment, it's the domain knowledge, it's everything that an organization has that they can bring to bear on making these decisions the best they can possibly be. And I think you can't rely just on the technology. I think there's a level of human judgment involved. I mean, being able to sort out, what is correlation and what's causation. That's, these are difficult kinds of things that require a little bit of human judgment. And so I think applied intelligence is bringing all that together and putting it in pursuit of the best decisions possible.
It's really taking it to the next step. It's about making sure that we're driving for the outcomes and not necessarily just getting fixated or trying to solve for the piece part of the process. Mike, what does state-of-the-art really look like for leveraging applied intelligence? There are lots of innovative companies out there that are trying to differentiate themselves with AI. What's allowing them to separate from the pack? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Injecting human experience into those automated decisions, so that the decision logic.
It's bringing them together.
It's bringing them together. It's very popular to say, oh, we want data-driven decisions. Yes, absolutely. But you can't take the expertise of a business team that perhaps has 20 years of experience, and you can't dump their brains into Snowflake, right, and then somehow use it, right? They need special tools. And so the core and the heart of a digital decisioning platform is the ability to combine all of these decision intelligence technologies, including our own, our brains.
Fantastic. You know, we really paid attention to that when we were building FICO platform. There's a lot of different persona types in an enterprise that need to work on bringing that value chain together, from data to analytics, to insights, to decisions, to operationalizing those to drive outcomes. You know, data scientists, business users, IT folks, et cetera. And we really paid attention to building a single operating system, if you will, in FICO platform for bringing all these personas together so that human expertise and logic was not going to get lost. Really, happy to hear you say that. Mike, one of the things that you do as part of your job at Forrester is really to do a wave study on evaluating vendors out there that are in this space. And you speak to a lot of people, you see a lot of people out there. Can you help folks out here have a perspective on how do you evaluate a vendor that's got a digital decision platform or an applied intelligence platform?
Yeah, and whenever we do a wave, which is on about an 18-month cycle in a platform like this, or any platform for that matter, I am talking with enterprise buyers and enterprises constantly in my job, finding out what they're doing, answering their questions. And so what we do is we try to figure out, well, what is the most important criteria to those buyers? And then we try to evaluate vendors against that criteria. One of the biggest shifts that I've seen in the last few years is from tooling to a platform, right? And this is directly related to this acceleration of digital transformation. A platform is necessary for larger teams, from more numerous use cases. So there's 20-something criteria, but if I had to pick three, it would be what we call model ops, which is operationalizing and monitoring models in production. You have to monitor what's happening with those decisions. The other one is connectivity to data sources, because you do need that connectivity to data sources. And another one, I'll reiterate what I already said, is those tools to capture human decision logic and do machine learning and do other forms of advanced analytics.
Fantastic. I know you guys publish a lot of documentation and material on this on your website.
Yeah.
I'm sure folks can also reach out to you, Mike, if they need some help on that. You're certainly an authority in this space and can help a lot of folks with that. Will, last question. What makes now different? Why is this possible now?
Well, obviously the technology is advanced. The cost of all this has come way, way down. And I think that we have an imperative. I actually think the pandemic changed everything. We were all on kind of our path to digital transformation. There was a lot of talk around it. But the pandemic was truly a pivotal event. And I think it's just changed everything.
Mike, anything you want to add to what Will just said?
No, we just need to keep going faster. And I think platforms like this are in demand because of that, because that's what they enable.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Will, for joining us this morning. Really appreciate having the two of you here. I know you'll be here this week as well in case anybody wants to have a conversation with you offline.